Bet you didn't know it's still legal to travel to Cuba. I'm Melanie Tucker, owner of Rare Finds Travel, and welcome to our 5-part video series, Conversations on Cuba. I created this to let you know what it's like to travel to the island these days. And we're starting with video 1 on legality. Now, I know it's not the sexiest way to kick off our conversation, but the truth of the matter is that there's a lot of people out there, and maybe you're one of them, who are really worried. They're confused. They hear about all these different government announcements, and they read articles circulating online and in the newspaper, and they're starting to feel like they're not even able to go to Cuba. If you're feeling like that, let me clear this up right now, because right now in September 2019, it is 100% legit and 100% legal to travel to Cuba as a US citizen, and I'm going to teach you how to do it in this video. Now, on June 4th of this year, the US Department of Treasury issued its new Cuba policy, and it's true that at that time it prohibited certain types of travel to the island, like all of the cruise ships. But it left other types of travel still open and available and legal. So let me explain how this works. To go to Cuba, you need to get a visa. It's very easy to get. There's no approval process. There's no interview. You simply pick one of the approved reasons for travel, and often you get the visa right at the airport, and often you don't even speak to a human being. You're actually filling this out by clicking boxes in a kiosk. So there are reasons to go to Cuba, and one of them is called in support of the Cuban people. Lucky for us at Rare Finds Travel, we've always traveled to Cuba under that reason. So it's true, in support of the Cuban people has two important parts. One part is that you don't patronize any government or military-owned hotel or guiding service. Another criteria is that you have a full slate all day long of activities that truly support the Cuban people. So you are not going to go on a Mai Tai beach vacation to Cuba as an American right now. But you are going to have so much fun because traveling in support of the Cuban people allows you to do all kinds of things. You can take a history walk through Old Town, and you can look at the beautiful architecture, and you can learn all about the black market. You can sample rum and cigars, you can listen to local music, you can visit all kinds of really funky art installations, you can ride in classic cars, take samba dance lessons, and you can even hire locals to do specialty things like Jorge, who runs a bike tour, and you'll learn all about the ration cards while you're pedaling around town to different cafes. Or you can even take a cooking class where you learn how to make ropa vieja in a local's home. So trust me, it is not our duty. Your trip in support of the Cuban people is going to be amazing. Now, I know that there is worry, and I understand that, because the first time I wanted to go to Cuba, I felt the same way. It was 10 years ago, and my partner Daniel was turning 50 years old. Now, story goes, family lore has always been that his parents honeymooned in the Florida Keys, 1958, pre-revolution, and they were having a great time, and they took the fast ferry over to Havana for a few days of frivolity. Came back, 9 months later, Daniel's born. So they always said he was conceived there. So I thought it was perfect that when he celebrated his 50th, we should go back to the scene of the crime. But at the time, Americans couldn't go legally. Some people were going through Canada or Mexico or the Caribbean. You've probably heard these stories. But for me, that wasn't going to work, because I didn't want to be looking over my shoulder and worrying. I didn't want to go if it wasn't completely legal. So we didn't. We chose another spot. We went and had a good time. And then it was so special for me a few years ago when Cuba did open up for the American people. And my first trip was for my birthday in 2016 in April. Actually, it was when the Rolling Stones actually played their concert there, which was an incredible point in time. So questions that I've gotten have been, when I come back in the country, will I get interviewed by an immigration officer? No, that's never happened with any of my clients or on any of my own trips. You have a legitimate visa. You come through home as though you would come home from any trip out of the country. You just keep your records of your trip so that if you ever were asked, which has not happened yet, you could just show that you did. You had a full slate all day long of activities that supported the Cuban people, and your trip was completely legit. Someone else that really surprised me wondered wondered if once they got into Havana, if they could be detained and not be allowed to come home. Now, this just doesn't happen. So trust me, I have sent hundreds of people to Cuba, and I just came back in February from leading a group there, and I leave in October to take another group. So now that we've got that cleared up, our next video is, bet you didn't know the food is amazing in Cuba. I'm going to tell you all about it in our Conversations with Cuba when it continues in video 2, so tune in.